Welcome to Money Secrets with Bill and Mike.
I'm Bill Alexander.
And I'm Mike Tove. Bill, you know, many times people come into my office and they need a plan. And part of the problem is that the plans that they have been given were built around some favorite product that somebody was promoting. And that's not a plan.
No question about it. In fact, often folks they know they need to plan, but they really don't know what they need.
Right. So let's take a little break and we'll come back and let's talk about needs planning. And cut. Welcome back. So we're going to talk about needs planning, and I think people understand that they need to have a long-term plan for retirement or for inheritance or asset preservation protection, whatever the plan is. But I don't think folks understand what needs planning really is about.
Unfortunately, right now, every professional out there, or it seems, that every industry is trying to be a one-stop shop.
Right.
And that can create real problems. You know, if we go back 20 years, you had insurance people, you had bankers, and you had brokers or financial folks, and they were completely separate industries, and there were very strong ethical rules for each one. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, but I think there's more negatives than positives. Over the last 20 years, it's all been compressed, and many of those rules have just been thrown out the window. And so the bankers are trying to be your banker, plus your broker, plus your insurance advisor. The brokers are trying to be your bankers as well as your insurance. The insurance people are still trying to do it all. And that can create huge problems.
Well, I think one of the other things, and when I do workshops, I actually talk about this, and perhaps a little bit more of I try to keep the workshops comical a little bit, but is that times have changed, and to the extent that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, life was very simple. Everything back then was about generalists. I mean, I use the example of when you went to your doctor, if you were feeling poorly, whatever was going on, you would just pick up the phone and you'd call your personal physician, he'd come over and he'd make a house call. And today, you got to go to the right kind of a doctor. And I remember the days of a personal banker. Well, those don't exist anymore. And so it's really about, everything has become focused towards specialty, specialty, specialty. Mm-hmm. And so many folks don't know what the specialties really are. They're generalists trying to be a specialist, and it doesn't work.
Well, there are a lot of problems with that, and it's the old adage is that if you only have a hammer and a nail, then that's
right.
You can only make a product that is created with a hammer and a nail. And I think that's where a lot of the problems are, is that folks are so subdivided now mm-hmm. that it can be a problem. But you know, I go back. I know that there was my mother went into her bank. I won't name the bank, but the bottom line is the bankers knew how much money she had in the bank. That may not have been invested at the time, but you know, they have a lot of private information. Well, the teller said, go over and see our financial person. And the financial person, guess what? Put her into a product that was managed by the bank. Well, truthfully, that was a horrible investment that she made. She lost a lot of money on it. But people believe that their banker is a trusted advisor, but oftentimes they are pushed into products that the bank will profit from, and not necessarily what's in their best interest.
Right.
And I know you could recount countless numbers of situations like that.
Well, sure. I mean, and the real problem is, and I don't want to pick on banks because the brokerage firms do the same thing, and even the insurance firms do the same thing, the insurance
Sure.
agencies.
No, I
it
agree.
has to do with captivity. If I'm going to pick on anything, it's when somebody is taking their advice from someone who is captive to an employer, if you will,
Or an industry.
or an industry. Then what happens is that those employing entities, whether it's the industry, it's not so much the industry, but it's the brokerage firm or the banking firm or the insurance agency, whatever it is, they have entered into marketing agreements that are, there's some range, but it's fundamentally limited to a menu of this, 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 and this, and that's all they can operate within. And so the solutions come down to a somewhat limited range of possibilities. And it's like, you might love, for an example, you might love Chinese food. Good luck getting it at a Mexican restaurant.
Right.
So it has to do with you. The first rule, the first money secret, is to make sure that you're working with somebody who has the breadth to work in any industry.
Well,
at least has contacts in any industry.
Okay, well, Mike, tell us how you distinguish from an advisor that is a captive advisor towards one that's independent.
Well, you have to ask
What's
the questions.
the secret?
Yeah, the
Right.
secret is you have to ask the questions. So if you go into an office that has a name that is a well-recognized name on it, it's probably captive. Second thing is ask. Ask what the limitations are. If you're going to talk to somebody who, actually a great way of doing it is just asking about the other industry. So if you go to a brokerage firm, ask them what they think about pure insurance products. And if you get a negative answer, if you get somebody, I hear this all the time, oh, whatever you do, don't buy an annuity, that kind of thing, this is a person with a bias. Similarly, if you go to somebody who is insurance licensed and you ask them about the stock market and they go, oh, nobody should be in the stock market, this is a bias. So it's really about, first and foremost, finding someone who doesn't have a bias. Unfortunately, that's tough. But we'll come back in a few minutes and talk about the next important step, because there's a second piece to this money secret. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So, Bill, we were talking about the secret, and the first secret is to find someone who is not captive.
Right, unbiased as much as
Unbiased
possible.
is really what it is.
Right. Well, of course, it's important to understand what biases we're talking about, because as you and I both know, there are basically foundational issues in terms of investing. You certainly have securities, which would include stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and the like. You have insurance products, which would include life insurance, annuities, and the like. And then you have banking and
Correct.
the services that banks have, and the investments, the money market funds, as well as
And
CDs and the like.
and so forth. And the key is this: each one of these industries serves a valued purpose, and there is this competitive nature. I mean, we fundamentally live in the triangle, and so we've got three pretty competitive colleges around here: State, Carolina, and Duke. And for those of you outside of this area, this is basketball central. I'm sorry. But it's really like about being a fan for one of those teams and hating the other because it's the rival. And rivalries are great when it comes to sports, but not when it comes to planning.
Not for investing,
Not
that's
for
for sure.
investing, and not.
Well, that's no question about that. And in fact, that's one of the problems. The bankers would like to control all of your money. The brokers would like to control
All of
your
your money.
And,
And the
the
insurance-
insurance industry would
Right.
like to control all of your money.
Exactly.
So what do
Well,
people do?
okay, so first off, let's talk about what they shouldn't do. No industry, the financial services world consists of three industries, and only three: banking, securities, and insurance. That's really all there is. No industry is right for everybody. And no industry is right for anybody's every dollar.
No question about it. And of course, there's actually a fourth, and we've talked about it on this show a lot, and that's real estate.
Real estate, right.
But we're really talking about what do you do with your cash in terms
yes.
of how do you deal with that.
And by the way, outside of a private residence, real estate tends to fall in the securities side of things. People don't realize that, but it actually, when you start buying and selling real estate, you are actually entering into a world of securities transactions.
Well, let's
So
not
let's
go
stay
there.
away. Yeah, let's not. But the bottom line is that when you go to an advisor, the very first thing the advisor should be doing is talking about needs and objectives. If they start talking about companies and products, basically they're sticking the cart in front of the horse.
Absolutely.
So the first thing that an advisor should do is find out what are your needs and objectives. Second thing is, what do you have? You know, the joke that I use is that a person comes to me and they say, Mike, I just retired and I need $5,000 of retirement income for life, and I've got $10,000 to my name. Can you work me out a plan? And my answer is yes, but it's
2
only good for
months.
2 months. That's right.
Right, I understand.
So we have to know what you've got. We have to know what we're trying to accomplish. Sometimes the answer is what I just said, is that it doesn't work that good. You're going to have to rethink things.
Well, the first trait of a good advisor clearly is someone who listens. That's what I tell my attorneys, and it's so important, is that without listening, how would you know what someone wants or needs? And of course, it's digging down to more than just I would like to have or I need X number of dollars per month. It's also, what about the family? What are the situations in the family? Do we have long-term care issues? Do we have insurance to cover that or not? Do we need government assistance? Do we have children who might be a spendthrift, or do we have a special needs child that we need to deal with? There are all sorts of issues where an advisor needs to be able to listen, to take that in, and then be able to talk about options from all of these different financial institutions.
That is absolutely correct. And it's that concept right there, because frequently when a client comes in and sits down, there's more than one way of accomplishing a goal.
No question about that.
And I had a high school teacher who used to say, when you select, you must reject. And that's going to be true in planning. So people, they come in and say, well, I want the best growth possible. Well, duh. Mm-hmm. But that's not the only issue. It's what are we going to try to do today, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road? Mm-hmm. What are the choices? And unfortunately, when we select one thing, we're going to give up something else. At least we're going to trade it off. So there's always that balancing act.
Well, the other part of the balancing is that things change over time, and that you need to continuously rebalance.
Right, and part of a good plan is that there is flexibility. Mm-hmm. Flexibility is key.
I think so too, and the same thing is true with legal issues. Mm-hmm. You know, we need flexibility, and you have to understand that the legal plans that people adopt today need to be able to change and evolve over time. You'd be surprised how much, when we are able to explain the options that people have, oftentimes they do something very different from what they came in to see us about. They think they want it one way, but when they see that they can accomplish their goals a different way, a better way, they choose a better way.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it goes back to the same thing. People come in and they say, well, will this plan work for me forever? And
Well, we know the answer.
The answer is no. So I want to come back. We've got to take a break, but I want to come back and talk a little bit about how do you factor in the flexibility. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. So, we were on the subject of flexibility, and I know with legal documents, because I get it. People come in before I refer them to you, they will say, "Well, I need something that will be good, that will last me forever," and it's like, well,
exactly.
Forever's a long time,
and it works the same way with finances. People would like to be one and done. That's the easiest thing. But the truth is, good planning doesn't work that way.
No.
I know that in every plan that I do, whether it's a will-based plan, a trust-based plan, it's always built with flexibility, where we can change it, we can amend it. One of a lot of folks don't realize that one of the most important legal documents that you can have is your general durable power of attorney. And one thing I've said for years is that most seniors do not have the right documents, and the big culprit is the general durable power of attorney. And that's the one that either ties people's hands or it gives them flexibility. And so I always vie for the flexibility, as long as there's a trusted person in the family who it would be good in terms of representing you and being able to take care of your needs if you can't do it for yourself. Obviously, I always want people to be as independent and control their own money as long as they possibly can. And of course, having a good financial advisor is a big part of that as well.
But, and so many times, and folks will come in because they'll tell me things they the attorneys, because they think, well, if I tell him that, he'll charge me extra. But they will come in and I'll say, hey, look, you need, they go, well, I probably need to get my will updated. And I go, well, how old is it? And they go, I don't know, 15 or 20 years old. And, I said, where was it drafted up? And they said, well, it was when I was living out in Nebraska or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I go, yeah, you probably want to have it looked at. But then I say, well, do you have a powers of attorney, general durable power of attorney, healthcare? They go, oh yeah, I got that. And I go, were they drafted at the same time? Yeah, probably. And it's like, those documents may not be as effective as you think they are anymore.
Well, even for those, it's crazy, but for someone who is really focused on flexibility and asset protection, most attorneys don't give clients those kind of documents. Right. And I've had to redo documents that were done months or just a year or two earlier, because most attorneys basically give everyone the same kind of documents, and that's a real sad thing to say, but most people can do better than that.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with the financial side, is that people will come in and they'll go to their broker and they'll have this massively complex, hideously over complex portfolio. You sit there and you look through page after page after page of different investments, and when you add it all up, if they've got $180,000 and they got 87 different investments, it's nuts.
Okay.
Well,
Mike, we
and they're all
know
doing
that
the same things.
A big part of the money secret is flexibility in planning, and it's also a matter of understanding that you're never going to be one and done, that it is a plan that evolves, that has to be changed over time. But what's the money secret on selecting a financial advisor?
The money secret on selecting a financial advisor is finding somebody who is truly independent, someone who can operate in different arenas, that they're comfortable and their securities licensed, that they're also insurance licensed, and they're not tied to some big firm. They're not part of a big name brokerage firm or an insurance agency or even bigger a company, so that that there is this opportunity for unbiased. They should have contacts with legal advisors. They should have contacts with CPAs. They should have a team.
And advisors who can work together.
Right. And that's really, and so ask. And the key is to just ask. Well, Bill, we've used up our time. Let's take a short break and we'll be back and wrap it all up. So, anyway, I guess the real money secret here is get a good advisor. Seems like we've said that before.
It is, but so many folks don't understand how to distinguish from good
Right.
from just mediocre.
Yeah. So anyway, now we're going to plug ourselves, which is fine. I'm Mike Tove of AIN Services. We can be reached at 800-363-2296. We do insurance and investment, financial planning. We are comprehensive. Check us out on our website at www.ain-services.com.
And I'm Bill Alexander of WG Alexander and Associates. We're attorneys who are focused on asset protection, elder law, and estate planning. So we're a boutique firm concentrating in those areas. I would ask you also to join me for my radio show entitled Asset Protection Today, every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on WPTF 680 AM.
And thank you for watching. Tune in next week for another episode of Money Secrets. Bye-bye.